Okay, guys, you're live. I'm a couple of minutes early, so I hope y'all come in a minute. How doing? Uh, I guess I'm watching. Anyway, uh, another hot day in Alabama. I had a little um, screw up that I had to take care of. We were coming home from dinner last night. Hey there, Curtis. How you doing? And hello, Virginia Crafter, James Lindsley. I hear you. I know the whole South is, well, hey, it's July and August. We kind of expect it. I would be shocked if it was February and this hot, but, we'll be okay. Buffalo's in flood stage. Hope y'all are okay. Hello to Kansas. But what I was starting to say was we were coming home from dinner last night on my Nissan Pathfinder, and one of the tires went flat. And so I haven't had a flat on this Nissan before. And so we stopped side of the road, and I got out and dug out the stock issue bottle jack, which is the little turn the little thing and it telescopes up. I'm here to tell you that makes a dang fine boat anchor. Beyond that, forget it. I got it in position and did all the cranky, and it come up and it touched and it lifted up about a half inch. That was about it. So I called a friend to come help us out, and he would come up, and I was hoping, since he's got a big truck, I was hoping he had a jack on board that would lift it. Well, no, he ain't got a jack with him. So we ran back, left the wife to guard the Pathfinder. We ran back to the house, and I got my little floor jack I carry in the little black truck. So we get out there, and we get up underneath, and I go jack, and it came up about halfway, and as far as it'd go, it was low on oil, so it would not pick it up. So that sent me running to Walmart to buy a jack. And so 3 jacks later, we finally got that Nissan jacked up enough to change the tire. And so I went and got a tire for it today, and came back and went to put the tire on. And one of them big 31-inch tires are kind of heavy. And I didn't stretch or nothing. So when I went to put it on, I kind of threw my back out. So if you see me squirming around a lot, that's what it is. My sciatic's a little upset with me right now. It'll be fine tomorrow. It's just right now it's a little cranky with me. But let's see, what do we got? Hello to Kansas. Let's see. The Beast of Bray Road. Awesome name. Hello to New York, to George. Are you close to Slocum? That's where all my family is from. Actually, I'm about 30 minutes from Slocum. Slocum is between here and Dothan, and I'm next to Enterprise. I'm actually outside of Enterprise, but you get the idea. So I'm about 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes from Slocum. Best tomatoes in the South, guys. They have the tomato festival down there. Time for the UK. It's 1 a.m. Well, thank you very much for tuning in so late at night. And from Montgomery, a lot of Alabama boys on here. Piney Woods, East Texas. Awesome. Aloha. How you doing? Hello from Indiana. Nice to see you. Aloha. One of my co-workers when I worked at Walmart for many years was a native Hawaiian. Just small lady, very pretty. But most people mistaken her for being Japanese or something when she was actually native Hawaiian. And so it would kind of irritate her. And I started this little urban rumor around there that, oh, no, she's actually Sicilian, witness protection, hush. They did a good job. You can't tell she's from Sicily. And so people go, really? She's Sicilian? Yeah, she's Sicilian. In fact, I'd see her across the floor and I go, hey, little Sicilian lady. And it became a running joke for about 10 years up there. Hello to Oregon. Tiny, how you doing? There we go. Chuck Miller, Roll Tide. Yes, I do root for all Alabama teams. For those of you that wonder, I just happen, if it's a head-to-head, I got to root for Auburn because the underdog. But I want Alabama to win. I want Troy State, North Alabama, South Alabama, all those teams in Alabama. I want all of them to win. But if it's a head-to-head between Alabama and Auburn, I got to root for Auburn. Sorry. The hat question guy. Hello there again. Hello, Bear. How you doing tonight? But anyway, I had a couple of people send me questions ahead of time that I wanted to kind of just get the ball rolling. And whatever question you got, throw it out here, and I'll do what I can to answer. But they were asking, did I ever have any trouble with alligators when I'm out camping out and etc. I have encountered some gators over time, and most of the time it's not a big factor. Gators, for the predominant part, want to leave you alone. They just want to eat their turtles and their fish, find that carrion, stuff like that. Now, if you walk up on them and spook them, absolutely. They do like to lay at a natural ford in the water and hope for something to walk up to get a drink of water to lunge out and get. But those are kind of things that you just learn to notice. If the water's real dark and you can't see, and it looks like a natural V walking down to the water's edge, you want to be kind of careful. I like to take a stick and kind of, if you slap the water, they got to react. If you poke them, they'll just lay there. So I have learned to just take something, slap the water a couple times, and if they're there, they'll react. They'll pop up because they're kind of conditioned to that. And I have had a couple times, once on Chattanooga River. I'd come down, we'd camped out, and I'd come down the bank early in the morning. We were trying to do breakfast, and I need to refill canteens. And we had one of them hand pumps at that time. And I came down, and where the light is, it's real bright in the morning, everything. The light was not going into the water, it was on the water. So you're seeing it kind of like a two-way mirror, like a reflection. And just as I got there, there was a cloud going over, and I saw in the shape a foot sticking out. And I realized there was one sitting there about 3 feet from me looking at me. And he didn't lunge out and try to get me, but I just backed off, went over here to a different place and filled up canteens and come back. But, they just want to do their thing, Now, during mating season, yeah, they can be a little aggressive. And if a mama's sitting on a nest, oh boy, is she aggressive, In fact, when Dan Lutz and I had talked about the second largest delta in the United States is in Alabama. Mississippi, of course, is the biggest. But that delta is north of Mobile, and it's a huge wilderness and swamp that is old river channels over hundreds of years, where they've come in and cut a new channel because the old one silted in, or the old one silted in and the river just changed course. They want to do navigation, things like that. And it's just, you look at it, and it looks like some kid's been drawing with a marker. I mean, there's just tons and tons of old channels and stuff, and it's tidal. And so when the bay backs up for high tide, that goes in and out. And they donated it to the owners of a vast majority of it after they dug the Tennessee Tom Bigby waterway to bypass that and go all the way up to the Tennessee River. And the Alabama River flows in at some magic point when it leaves Fort Toulouse area, Wetumpka, Alabama, where it's the Coosa and the Tallapoosa come together and start south. It then becomes the Alabama River, and at some magic point, they stop calling it the Alabama River and becomes the Mobile River. It's the same river, it's just local names. And I had Dan had wanted to go and see some big swamps and wilderness, and so me and him had talked about taking a trip in there because it's all just islands and channels, and it's just it's a true wilderness, and there's some big snakes, some big gators in there. And I said, sure, we'll go in. Me and him were talking back and forth on it. And I thought we were ironing out the details of it. And I said, we'll do it in the fall when it's not so hot. And next thing I know, he contacted me and said, nope, we are not going down there. Forget it. It ain't happening. And I went, Whoa, whoa, whoa! What changed your mind? I said, you got too big of gators down there. I seen pictures. Yeah, the world record alligator came from Alabama, which was like 19 feet 11 inches long and 2,000 pounds. Yeah, we got big gators. We got dinosaurs walking around in Alabama, and he didn't want to go down there. And after that, well, me and this past May, me and Steve Kingsbury had gone back down to the lake at Geneva State Forest where I hold my gathering. And it was about probably 11:30 or 12 at night. We were sitting just talking, and we heard a big gator, the mating call of a big gator. And it's just look it up on YouTube. But to me, it sounds like when you're hearing it in the wild, it sounds like a big cat, like a lion or something, growling down a big sewer pipe. It's just deep throated sound, but it carries for a long way. And me and Steve were sitting there, not far from Dan's old camp, and heard that just right down there past Dan's camp. And I told him, I said, in my mind, I heard Dan going, nope, 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 nope. That would have been the end of that camp. He'd have moved. Oh, let's see what we got. Hello to Oklahoma. Yeah, let's see. Hello, Pink. How you doing tonight? Are black bears ever concerned when you're out camping? Not really. Um, we do have black bears down here. In fact, they were released into Connecticut National Forest back in the early 90s. Florida a few years ago had a bear hunt where they agreed that they would harvest 300 bears, and they got all 300 in one weekend. Well, what that is your nuisance bears. That's the bears that's getting in the garbage can at Hardee's every night and stuff like that. It allowed them to take care of them. The ones that are staying out in the wild, they're a ghost. Now you may have problems in other places of the country, but down here, no. I don't even do bear bags and things because the bears down here do still have such a fear of man that they avoid us. They may get into trash cans and stuff. I've very rarely ever even seen sign of a bear, even in some really backwater places. I know they're around, and we do have them hit by cars, and you do have people that have game camera footage that pops up fairly regular. But it's not a big deal down here. Usually they're so avoidant of man, and they have more than enough food down here because a black bear, of course, is a omni. He can be a herbivore or a carnivore, and so you've got year-round food down here, plenty of carrion, plenty of wild game he can catch easy, and so they're not that big a factor down here. Now, how do you avoid them? Make a noise, make human sounds. I was with somebody several years ago, and I thought that I may hear something like, because you hear them sniffing, that because they're following their nose, they're smelling something, and it was either a big dog or it could have been, and so they were in their hammock over there, and I'm over here, and so I just struck up a conversation with them, went to talking, and I heard whatever it was wander off. Next day, since we're in deep pine straw, you couldn't find any tracks, but it could have been one coming in to sniff around, but for the most part, they're going to leave you alone as long as you take care, and make a human noise, do something to try to discourage them. Down in my neck of the woods, they are still very scared of people, so we're okay. What knife did your grandpa carry in its use? He carried up in top of the bib overalls a Granddaddy Barlow. That was a working knife. And if we were going hunting, fishing, something like that, Granddaddy Barlow was going to be up there. He carried in his pocket usually a case pocket knife, a 3-blade Stockman. And so that Granddaddy Barlow was the general purpose knife. And but the case knife, that was the precision knife. That was kept razor sharp and was not used for just general work. That's when I have to have a really, really sharp blade. whereas the Barlow was brought out and used for all kinds of general. If you had to shave down fat wood to build a fire, that's the knife that would come out. If you needed to cut the bands on some sort of, package or something, that's the knife that came out. It was a general purpose working knife. But the 3-blade Stockman was the held in reserve and was only used when it needed that kind of blade. Okay, Chuck Miller's talking about bears. Mostly leave you alone and run while you never feed them. Been outdoor leaving 50 years and seen tons of them out there. Yeah, that's true. They'll normally just take off. My grandfather said when I was a little boy, he said 99 out of 100 bears will run from you, but they do not come in that order. So make sure you ain't got the one. There's a story in my family about my grandmother when she was about 12, 13 years old. And she thought it was during the night. And she thought it was a dog had got into the smokehouse. And so she grabbed the broom and went running, and the smokehouse door was open. And she run in the smokehouse, and it was about a 8 by 10 room. Probably more like 8 by 8. And she went in there with that broom just flapping and zapping and chased the dog out. Well, the next day when her daddy got out there and got to looking, that's when he found out it was actually black bear tracks. So she had chased the black bear out of the smokehouse with a broom. Okay, let's see. How good are arc lighters compared to other ignition? They actually work very well. They generate a great deal of heat quickly, and they do very well. And now they're very focused. You got to go between those arcs, and so it's hard to get something big and awkward. You got to have something thin enough to get between the arcs, because unlike a flame sticking up, arc lighters only arc between, so you got to get in that X. It's usually meant in modern times for lighting cigarettes or things like that. You don't see hardly arc lighters being used for pipe smokers because it needs to be so wide. That'd make a big lighter, say. So that's only the consideration. Just if you want to carry one, be a battery-powered lighter like that, very viable. You just have to realize that what you're going to pick up and set fire, you got to make sure it's like the size of a drinking straw to start onto it, because it's got to be small to fit between those arcs. What's your favorite meal to cook when out camping? It's going to be camp taters, and I'm going to take something like Spam and put it in a canteen cup, dice it up into pieces, and I'll take a stick and whittle it out flat if I don't have a spoon or something with me, and just kind of brown it a little bit in the cup first, and then I'll add water and leaving the Spam in there and let it come to a boil. And as soon as it comes to a boil, I take I believe it is 3 cups. I think that's it. 3 cups of Idaho instant potatoes and 1 package of dry brown gravy mix. I just mix that all together, and then I'll divide that up and dump that into the water, shake in until it gets the right consistency, and let it bubble for just a minute. Usually as soon as it's boiling, I just pull it off, shake into it, stir it up, and it's got the meat, the potatoes, and the beef flavor all mixed together, and it's very filling, holds up well. It cleans out of the cup pretty easy as well. There's nothing stuck to the cup, and it's easy to rinse out and clean the cup. So camp taters is usually about my favorite thing to eat if it's just me going. Hello from the Sierra Nevada. Hello there. Have you ever seen Sasquatch? No. But now I can tell you for a fact, I have seen her things I couldn't easily identify. And there has been some strange things down here in the South. If you will do a search for gorilla in Alabama, it'll show you where we've got a gorilla walking around down here somewhere. And in fact, 2 years ago when we were having my event over on the other end, we're on Geneva State Forest, which is 7,000 acres, and that's up against 70,000, which is Connecticut National. On the far side of that, there's an interstate, and some individual claimed to have seen some documentation. I think they got a phone out something big there. And what it is, it's escaped from Florida. They was a roadside, one of those attractions, small mom and pop type attractions that had gorillas and things like that. And one of the hurricanes tore it up, and a lot of the stuff got loose. And I understand they had a silverback gorilla. I think it was probably a rehab place or something. And that it got loose. And so if you'll look up, gorilla in Alabama, it talks about a place up here in the national forest where a small town, probably about 1,500 people living in it, and it was lunchtime, and everybody was in the small little diner in the middle of the town, and the thing came walking up Main Street. So, no, I've never seen Bigfoot, but you might see a silverback gorilla, Hello from France. Hello. Hello to Germany, and thank you very much. Have you shot a musket? Many, many times. I did live in history for many years. I've shot brown bass muskets. I've shot French muskets. My favorite is a Thule to Chase, which is a gun of the hunt, which is a 62 caliber, call it 20 gauge. And it's a really good hunting gun. I had one that had been bobbed down to about 36-inch barrels, 38-inch barrel. And that was one of my favorite flintlock hunting guns for utilizing. I've also shot Civil War muskets and things. My favorite of them is the Zouave, which is actually the Remington 63. But it got linked into the Zouave name. But that's actually my favorite one. If I was going to have one to hunt with and utilize, and for me, if I've got one, it's a hunting gun. I'm not slinging all that big lead downfield for nothing. Don't forget, for the bears, don't forget you keep your food out of reach. Yes, that's always a good idea for anything, because down here you got big hogs, you got dogs, you got whatever, and they will come around your camp if they smell something. That's a quick way to find out what's in the woods. Just start cooking. Ever wrestled a bear? Because you look like half. Well, thank you. No, I have never wrestled a bear. I have wrestled horses. I have wrestled cows. I've tangled with quite a few things in the past, but a bear ain't one of them. Or a moose. I ain't messed with a moose either. Yes, case knife was Granddaddy's Sunday night. That is correct, sir. Yep, taking cordage, getting it up there in the air. True. Oh, yeah, grinning one out. The old Daniel Boone story about grinning out a bear. He claimed that you could just eye lock them and grin at them and walk right up to them and get close enough to club them and kill them. Now, when Walt Disney did that, they forgot to put the part in about it, walk up and club them and kill them. But that's what he was talking about, that you could just walk up, and if you kept your eyes locked on him and just kept walking up with your teeth shining, he'd bare his teeth at you and you'd get close enough to actually hit him. No, sir, I am not actually. Kiddo Spec Ops asking, am I a veteran? No, I am not. I tried going into the U.S. Army to go off to basic training, etc., and I had 4 separate medical waivers, and I got going, and they revoked all the waivers. That was back in the 80s, whenever the military decided to restructure, and if you were 10 pounds overweight, they were getting rid of you. So I was not allowed to serve because I had so many medical waivers. But thank you very much. I fully respect everybody that served, and I do my best to support them everywhere I can, but I am not a serving individual. I've done, Chris McCarthy is asking, do a video on camp taters. If you look at some of my early cooking videos or simple cooking, I do camp taters. I've done it several times. Wild boars fighting at night. Yeah, talking about wild sounds. I have instructed quite a few people down here that we do have big wild Russian boar that have been turned loose down here, and that's the boar explosion. And people think, well, I'll just yell at it and it runs. This is not a domestic hog. Russian boars, when they squeal, you think it's like a jet engine. It's so loud that your ears will ring for quite a while afterwards. So, you're not going to yell at them. And if you're laying in camp and suddenly you hear 2 of them go to hooking and harring because they're all upset and trying to mate, it's a sound, boy. It'll come out of that bottom down yonder and make your hair stand up. Frederick Rourke says, like the look of the new rucksack. Thank you very much. As soon as we can get that, I'll get it out to everybody. Jeff Fincher has a book coming. It's going along well. My Master Wisdom series is what I'm compiling it. And as soon as I get it all compiled out, I will be producing a book. Animals will usually run. Like my granddaddy said, 99 out of 100 will run from you, but they don't come in that order. I have been charged by a bunny rabbit before. I had him pinned and didn't know it. He just got himself in a tight place, and I come walking up this draw right up to him, and suddenly they ain't nowhere to go. And he came at me, a bunny rabbit, and I mean, I've been charged by dogs. I've been charged by deer. I've been charged by goats and cows. Talk about being out there in the dark and something spooky. We were doing a camp when I was young, and way back down by the river. And I was using a poncho tent, and I woke up and something, you feel it in the ground, is walking toward you. You can feel the ground, and all the fire's out. It's just about pitch. You can just by enough starlight make out where the river is and that type deal. And I was thinking, okay, this is it. And roll out and hoot and holler. And it was a black cow. But it didn't run. It came at me and headbutted into me and knocked me down. And then after hooting and hollering and everything, and the other two people that was with me went to make noise, then it took off. But it was just probably coming down to get a drink of water at the sandbar and ran into me, But you never know. You always got to keep your eyes open out there. The Frederick Rourke says that a Black Hawk flat top and 41 Magnum. I had a 41 Magnum for quite a while, and they're very good. That's a greatly underappreciated sidearm. It really, especially for hunting, it does really good on deer. Bear's saying that when he was working up here at Lake, his father was a biologist, found a female gator by accident, and it cost him 200 stitches. Yeah, they're upset when they're on the thing. What is your all-time favorite camp knife? My all-time favorite camp knife is my WC knives, my prototype, and my Blackbird. By far, it does everything I've ever wanted to do in a camp knife. Now, of course, no knife is the perfect. It's the perfect for this job and whatever. But that is just, I go back to it. I've been using it now for several years, and I can't ever envision myself not having it. I mean, that is an extension of my hand now. It does all the camp chores that I need with my experience level. Not a problem. How far north have you camped? New York, about 60 miles from Niagara. I think it is. It was on Seneca Indian Reservation or something like that. There's Seneca something. But that's far north I've camped in the U.S., I believe. Yeah, that should be it. Lentils or split peas? Butter beans. Both of those are good, but down here, I eat lima beans and stuff like that. Split pea soup's okay. It just isn't my thing. But as far as for carrying, for cooking, if I'm going to carry dry beans, it's either going to be black-eyed peas or it's going to be lima beans. Those small ones, navy size, are really good, but the bigger lima beans work really good for me. I like them slow cooked with a little bit of salt pork. Put them in a pot, a bush pot, and let them cook for 5-6 hours slow. Stir them, add a little extra water and let it evaporate out. Add a little extra water. Really good, especially when you got homemade bread to go with it. Really good. I have not. Peter Slabbinger, I'm sorry if I butchered that. Have you used a sodium vapor filament to hold a knife? What if I'm afraid I have not? I can't comment on it because I have not done that. Baron Bo, I enjoy your cooking videos. Thank you very much. What do you suggest do for Camp Prairie against bears and other critters? Okay, number one, when you get there and you've decided this is where I'm going to camp, drop your pack, do a 360 at 10, 15 yards out. That looks good and you're relatively clear from there. Make a lot of noise. Talk. Now, if you're stealth camping, you can't do this, of course. Talk. Put a human presence into it. Pounding tent stakes, beating firewood on a tree to break it is going to announce to the local inhabitants, animals, that there's a human there. And that's going to telegraph out, have your fire, and adding smoke, get a pretty good cloud of smoke every so often in the beginning, telegraphs out to all the nature around you that there's something there. And that is not a automatic natural scent, and so will help a lot. Most animals are going to avoid you by that. See, and so that's just one of the things. It also helps to put like permatin or something onto your hammock or your gear, because they can smell that, and that will be definitely a human scent. And so you're going to use scent as a repeller rather than as an attractant. Where's a good place to hike near Mobile, Alabama? If you go east, you have the Alabama hiking trail. It goes through Conecuh National Forest. That would be about 2 hours away from you. Also, the area I was talking about north of you, north of Mobile, does have some stuff around it. If you ask around there, I believe they have a hiking trail that goes around some of that. I have not been on that. But the Gulf Coast Trail, I think it's called, but the Alabama hiking trail terminates into Conecuh National Forest, and that's like north of Fort Walton Beach, so not terribly far from you, and that's an actual hiking trail. The Trans-Florida Trail that starts down at the Keys comes all the way up, and that's where it crosses into Alabama, becomes the Alabama hiking trail. It flows all the way through Alabama and stops, as I understand it, 20 miles short of the Appalachian Trail, and then goes up. It's the original idea that they had when they were going to do the full trail was actually going to start in Florida and go all the way to Maine. So there is some places there for you to hike. Why is it hard to find surplus things anymore? Well, one, the military made a big change in the 90s, and they dumped a huge amount of their stockpiles at that time. And so all the 60s, 70s, 80s gear that was not got to have it current issue right now, they got trashed and thrown into the surplus market, or we passed them on to foreign militaries. Then we went into almost 20 years of war and Desert Storm, and a lot of that stuff we didn't bring home. We just passed it off to whatever our allies were whenever we left. And so that kind of dried up the surplus market. You need a big war and then a big hunk of peace after it to have a lot of surplus. And that's the reason after World War II, tons of surplus. Korea, big action, relatively short amount of time. Vietnam, 10 plus years, but a relatively fast turnover rate. So you had a lot of guys going, a couple of tours, and then they're done, and their stuff hits the market. So that's one of the reasons that's happening. Today, with modern internet, it makes more sense for these surplus places to take the uniform things and sell them overseas to foreign militaries than it is to stick them in a warehouse and wait for you and I to come in and buy it. Gray Wind, I've been charged by a wild-eyed, knife-swinging ex-wife. Understand. Wolves are back in New York. That's cool. Wolves do a great deal for the environment. I know ranchers and stuff hate them, but they really do a good thing, and they clean up a lot of the environment and bring a lot of stuff into balance, and that's one of the things. Dan, knowing Dan, he being a trapper so much, he had studied so much, and he pointed out to me how coyotes, the gestation of them, whereas they have their litters and they will move into an area and just decimate the rodent population. and then they move on and they decimate there. And they'll have like sometimes a 200-mile circle that they'll do, that by the time they get back here, the time and gestation rate of the mice, chipmunks, and stuff will have recovered and brought back up a big enough population for them to be hunting and harvesting. So they're constantly moving and changing, and that's just coyotes. Wolves do the same thing with bigger game. And there's a very good documentation about how they greatly improved Yellowstone by putting them back in there. Changed the course of the rivers, changed the habitat of the wildlife. And they thought, oh, it'd just be wanton slaughter. Actually, it didn't. It greatly improved the wildlife diversification because of what it done. And I'm glad to see them come back. I've lived long enough to see the wolves back in Alabama again. We have a coy dog down here. It's actually, there's an Alabama red wolf. It's a leftover from the Ice Age. And when the coyotes migrated back in the 80s, they crossbred. And so now you got 80, 90, 100-pound ones. It's a wolf. It's like your New York coy wolves. The skulls, when you put them side to side, they're just a little smaller than a full-size timber wolf. But here in my local area, we actually had a lady that back in the mid-90s, she was raising, she had 2 full-blood Alaskan timber wolf bitches that she was crossbreeding with pedigree German shepherds to make timber shepherds back in those days when that was legal. And her 2 pedigree Alaskan timber wolves got loose and disappeared into the pack over here on Fort Rooker, Alabama. And suddenly you got a 110-pound, 120-pound coyote. A coyote is 30, 40 pounds. These are double the size of a coyote. And if you ever see them, it's a wolf. We call them pine wolves down here, but they're kind of like y'all's coy wolf up there. And I'm happy to see them back. Tell the story about being attacked while getting out of a hammock. Okay. We'd had a hurricane come through, and a group of friends of mine, we had a little super secret honey hole hunting camp in Connecticut National Forest. And we didn't know if it got tore up real bad. Well, it's kind of late in the year, and hunting season's not that far away. And so we wanted to know if that place had got trashed or not. And so I was picked to be the one to make the hike in. And it's a good 5, 6, 7 miles in to get in there. And so I had got off work fairly late and tried to high speed it in there. And I knew I was going to spend the night. And I brought a minimum pack, just a haversack and a little bit. And I didn't quite make it. I run out of daylight, and I was already pretty tuckered out. And so I found this place fairly close that I was going to spend the night. And there's a bunch of old trees with Spanish moss in them down there, and etc. And I slung up my hammock between 2 trees. And then, after I eat something out of a canteen cup, I just lay down. I put my U.S. Army blanket over the top of me that I brought with me, and I went to sleep. And right in that early morning gray light, when you don't really know, you can just barely see 20, 30 yards, lights just coming up. Something hit me right in the middle of the gut. And I felt something hit me in the head, hit me in the feet at the same time like that, and these teeth dig into my side about even with my belly button on my side. And of course, I shrieked and flipped and come up and fell out of the hammock, and you're swinging around trying to hit something. There's nothing there. And, I grabbed my shotgun I had off of the peg and got up against a tree. And you're sitting there scared to death. What's going on? I know I didn't dream it. I put my hand down. I come up. I got bright blood. I'm bleeding. And, I'm looking everywhere trying to figure out what it is. And that's one of those moments where, heart's racing like crazy. You're preparing to fight something, And then after like 10 or 15 minutes trying to be silent, trying to listen, get an idea what happened, and your brain is just running, Bear. No, bear, if he'd have hit me, he'd have broke me. Cat. No, a cat goes for the back of the neck. So it wasn't a bobcat or a mountain lion. This, that, and you run down, you start thinking Bigfoot. No, Bigfoot wouldn't run. Gorilla. No, it wasn't a gorilla. How did it disappear? And finally, a bird went singing like right there. And I near about blew this bird away because I was jumpy. And I finally got a hold of myself, and enough light came out, and I figured out what it was. It was a turkey. a turkey had flown down off of the roost, went to land on that green log, and that green log was me in a hammock. And that was his talons, his claws, hitting me in my gut and digging in, and he just kind of bounced off of me and went airborne, while I'm doing my theatrics. But that one, I had to go up, and I finally found where he landed. And then I found over here the tree that I hadn't noticed the day before, there were feathers where he'd been molting. And he's probably roosting up in that tree, and he probably doesn't land as gracefully. So when he launched out of that tree, he just landed on top of me. Okay, let's see if there's something else back there with that. CPS Way, talking to Thomas, so they just run a DNA on canine killed by hunter outside of Albany in December of 2021. Came back 95 or 99% wolf, split between 3 breeds of wolf. Yeah, that's one of what we're talking about. They're actually breeding back to wolf. And down here in my neck of the woods, it was the game wardens in Georgia that were the first to really notice it, that the size was getting so much bigger, the teeth, and etc. And so they ran a DNA test, and it came back about 90-something% wolf. And so it's like you're kind of regrowing a wolf, by taking the big ones and the traits. The wolf trait is dominant. So if you crossbreed a coyote and a wolf, which in nature, a wolf will kill and eat a coyote. He doesn't see it as another canine. It's just a food source. It's like an inferior to him. But you catch female in the right moment, whatever, and you get a crossbreed. And if you take that crossbreed and you mix it with another crossbreed, you ended up with wolf-like and a couple others. So you're like breeding it back upward, because the dominants start locking together, and you can breed back uphill, so to speak, and get an animal that is not a pure wolf, but it's the size, shape, and basically the skill sets of a big wolf. When I was coming up down here, we never had to have mules and things in with your small livestock like sheep, goats, things like that. It's somebody's hunting dog might kill one or something, but that was about it. Bobcat might get one. Excuse me, but that was about it. Today, if you don't have a mule or a burro, you're going to be losing them every night, because the packs go to singing at sundown, and they will start hunting. And it's just that many of them down here, and they're getting bigger and bigger. And we use mules and burros as sort of a watchdog, because the sheep, the goats, whatever, will get around him, and that mule or burro or whatever is big and bad enough to kill a canine in one hit. He'll bite him, or he'll slap him, or he'll kick him. And even then, we have 500-pound cows, half-grown cows being taken down by a pack of them. They'll just get them at the legs, they get them down, it's over. So they can breed back up. It's doing the same job. Coyotes are small game hunters. They hunt mostly mice, rabbits, chipmunks, little stuff. They will occasionally try something a little bit bigger, like a deer, if they're in a pack and they've got a good chance at it. Whereas the wolves are pack hunters. They bring down big game. So they're looking for a cow. They're looking for something that size. And so right now they've got plenty of small stuff like goats and dogs and your house cats and everything else to eat. So you just got to keep an eye on them. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, Brad Dockery, cheap cologne and a transistor radio works very good to keep people to keep wild game away. Very true. In fact, I'll share a little old Poachers technique with you. I grew up in a place where they did a lot of dog hunting, and dog hunting is kind of necessary in a lot of places where you've got really dense cover, like these river bottoms and creek bottoms and things like that, where you you can't see 20 yards. You can't see 15 feet sometimes. It's so thick in there. And so the deer will go down in there and bed, So they got to, you make so much racket trying to get down there to them, they're going to hear you coming. And so that's their safety zone. And so you would put your hunters along the tree line up here, and you'd turn loose dogs. And the dogs would go run down. That would make the deer get up and run, right? Well, how do you do it whenever the landowner won't let you use dogs? We would use cologne, something really loud that stank. I mean, go to the dollar store, get 4 or 5 bottles of the really good stuff, you know what I mean? And you'd get a box of tampons and a coat hanger. And you'd open out the coat hanger so it's just a wire, and you'd take the hook and you'd thread on, open up and fluff out and stick a bunch of tampons on it. You had a wad of tampons like that. Bend the wire over so it'd hold it, and you'd just souse it with that cologne. So your hunters would come in and they'd get on position, with the wind to your face, which means the wind is coming from the woods towards you. And your buddy would go on the far side of the woods, and he'd spin that cologne smell at about 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, because you want the deer, which have been in the field all night, they'd come in right at sun up, and by 7 or 8 they're going to bed. And so you just caught the straggler deer, really. They're down in them bottoms and they're hiding. Well, you wanted them asleep because the deer will face with their butt to the wind. They want to smell what they can't see and see what they can't smell. And that's how they'll lay down and go to sleep. And suddenly they smell like, and there's that smell of that cologne right here on top of them. It's like, oh my God, there's a human right here. And they'll jump up and take off running just like they got a pack of dogs after them. And so your hunters up there, we all agree that at 11 o'clock, that's when you're going to do it. And the guy way down, you can't even see him, he's so far away. He goes down the upwind side, and he walks up and down the length of that fence row, spinning and spreading that smell, resouse it and do it again. And deer would come boiling out like they had a pack of dogs after them. And you get a shot. If you didn't get a shot, then the deer are going to spend the rest of the day trying to sneak back in to go back to the bedroom. So it greatly improved your hunting ability. Old trick. Okay. Let's see. DONT 5HOOT. What's the name of the tripod seat? I have not done that video yet. I got it from Possum Pouch. Actually, I got it from Bombproof Bushcraft, but it's made by Possum Pouch, and it's a little folding canvas seat. I will be doing that video probably this coming week. And what it is, it allows you to just cut a couple of sticks of the proper length, run a bushcraft zip tie around it, and then sit this on top, and it opens up, and you've got a seat that you can have in the field. So all I'm doing is carrying a little piece of canvas. I can stick that in a haversack, or I'll fold up and put it in a thigh pocket on a pair of military pants, and be able to get to camp and make me a chair that I can tote around camp. And so I will be doing a video on that really soon. Just hang loose. It'll be coming up. Do you get jokes about your name down south? And can you cook bacon in a canteen cup? No, actually, people just accept Blackie. Blackie is actually a name beyond mine. There's been quite a few Blackies. In fact, there used to be one of the heavy metal bands back in the 80s that I listened to that was Blackie. Can't remember the gentleman, but it was Blackie whatever was the lead guitarist on it. So it's actually a name. And can you cook bacon in a canteen cup? Yes. If you want to deep fry bacon in a canteen cup, what you do is take it and cut it in small pieces, like inch and a half long. Take a canteen cup and put just a little water in it. Just cover the bottom about to the depth of like a number 2 pencil, that 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Get up there and let it start boiling, and then drop your bacon into it. Now, what's going to happen is the boiling water is going to start cooking the bacon. As it does, the grease is going to come out of the bacon. As it does, water is evaporating. So as the water evaporates, the grease is coming out, and you end up with all the grease, deep frying the bacon, and the bacon don't stick to the bottom and burn. I've done it in a bush pot. I've done a whole pound of bacon in a bush pot at one time. Just put, like I said, a little bit of water in the bottom to start with, and that gives it a chance to start cooking and the grease to come out. And as the water evaporates out, it's being replaced by grease, and you end up deep frying the bacon. I've done it several times. It works really good. Let's see, what's the next one? Hello, Chuck, Montgomery, Alabama. Hello, Dutch. Yeah, the coy dog, it seems to be a common name for that crossbreed between a wolf and a coyote, or a domestic dog and a coyote. So coy dog seems to be you see it a lot out west. Um, but like I said, down here, we just started calling the coyotes, or, that's a coyote. When it's double the size, we call it a pine wolf, just to designate the size difference in them. And once you see a big pine wolf, here's the thing I tell people. If you go up and you see a canine track, okay, if you make a fist like that and you put your hand down on top of the track and you cover the track, that's a coyote or domestic dog. If you make a fist and you put that and you can still see the tips of the track, that's a pine wolf. His track's bigger than my fist. That's the difference. Okay, let's see. Any other question pops up right now? Okay, Eric Vader, what do you suggest if you don't have a firearm for self-defense against animal if you have a minimum kit? A good walking stick. The stick is a very viable tool in a lot of ways, and in many ways can be superior to the firearm. A good walking stick, because snakes. If I'm walking along and I can't easily see my feet, it's low cover, but there's so much of it you can't see ahead of you. Take the stick and do it like this out in front of you as you walk, because snakes typically will come, be coiled up laying there, and you'll wake them up, and they'll move, and it'll give you an opportunity. You'll see them, as opposed to like a copperhead, they just lay dead still till you step on them. Larger animals, same thing. It gives you something that I can push away from me with. A good hard jab straight on with a half-inch diameter on the end, 3/4 inch diameter, or 1 inch diameter pole hurts. I've got big dogs to leave me alone. I've got cows to leave me alone. So just a good stick does a lot. A snake, don't try to hit a snake straight on. Swing sideways like a golf swing. That way you kind of scoop him and throw him out of the way of you. And any other kind of animal like that, same thing. And I know a lot of people that are not comfortable with firearms. And so learn to be good with a stick. Look up in martial arts bow staff. And you don't have to become an expert with a bow staff, but look at some of their attack techniques of how to utilize that stick. And that will work very well with a good walking stick, because you can, and what I recommend for it is ironwood. It's a type of tree that grows, and it's right. Looks kind of like an oak. The bark is kind of smooth and tight, and it looks like muscles. It's so twisted up under the bark. It looks like a flexed muscle, and that's one reason they call it ironwood. And once it dries, it's better than hickory. I've got an ironwood staff, and I could probably, stick it between two trees and put a chain to it and pull my car out with it. It's that tough. So iron would be what I would pick when I could not carry a firearm or something for wild game due to whatever conditions. Then therefore I would be toting a big stick like that. Saying that if you ask the game wardens and the rangers up there, in New York they'll tell you there's no such thing as wolves. That's correct. That's like they declared several years ago in Alabama. They declared that the mountain lion is extinct. It's not. What they were saying is the western mountain lion is not is protected but not an endangered species, and that if the eastern lion was a different creature, then it needed to be protected. If you acknowledge it, you got to protect it. And I know for a fact we got mountain lions down here. We've seen them on game cameras and everything else. But if you ask a game warden and you say, do we have mountain lion in Alabama? Oh, absolutely not. Yet all these game camera pictures show it. It's because we don't want to protect it. They declared it extinct, so it's just a western, and therefore we ain't got to protect it. Yeah, one of those things. If we ignore it, it's not there. Okay, let's see. We got another question. Thanks for you guys talking back and forth in chat with each other. That's cool too. And talk about belts and suspenders and talk about pocket knife. Okay. Belts do a big job. I have several. Now, I usually wear like an everyday leather belt, and I prefer leather belts to wear in my pants. One, it's a strap, so I can take it off, run the buckle, and wrap around my leg and pull it tight and strap my knife if I want to. Sweat does a good job at depositing salt into that leather, and that makes a good abrasive to hone and do final stropping on that. So I always wear a leather belt. For a duty belt or a larger belt that I wear that I'll have a canteen hanging on or something like that, I have a old British type of web canvas, but I replaced the buckles with a airborne buckle that a finger disconnect, you flick it and it falls off of you, so I won't get trapped. For many years, I wore a military web belt that, like you see for issue, the old green belt with a big old buckle on it. Those are very good for carrying all kinds of gear. And if you're going to be carrying canteens or other pouches, I recommend you get a separate belt because it makes life so much easier when you get to where you're going to be able to just unhook it, bang, and take it off. Sometimes because you're going to have pouches behind you and etc., it's just less fuss to unhook the belt and swing it around here in front of me and get the stuff out of that back pouch than it is trying to, reach around a rucksack and everything else. And then you swing it back around and lock it back in place. You can also put it around a tree, bandolier style, lock it. And so having a belt like that, in my experience, has been a big advantage. I came from using a lot of the military belts. I still use a lot of those military type belts for carrying various gear. If it's going to be heavy, it's going to be on a big wide belt like that. Now I've got a really good leather one that I got made from Stitch Gear, but it's kind of pretty, and I want to use it for a holster belt. And I go out when I'm going to be wearing my holster, what we used to call a barbecue gun when you're going out for, it's a family thing and y'all are going to be doing a shooting match as part of the big family thing that, you wear that, pocket knives also. Pocket knife, the small pocket knives, if you like the slip joint type, I really recommend for the price. You can't beat one of the Rough Riders. The quality is very, very good. The blades hold an edge very well, and the price is like $25 or less, usually greatly less. And so it's affordable, usable, and if you lose it, you're not out a lot. Now, if you want to be a collector or want to be somebody that just goes for the good stuff, of course, Case, Uncle Henry, Old Timer, all of those make very good knives, but you're going to pay a lot more. Is this knife worth the price for the quality of the blade, or is it a collector's item? See, that's the question. And only you can make that determination whether you can afford to lose a $70 pocket knife. And if you carry gear in pockets and it's not secured some way, you're going to lose stuff. You notice my Swiss Army knife rides on a lanyard. The Swiss Army knife Fieldmaster is my everyday one, and I love that knife, and it carries all the things that I need for being a woodsman. So that's where I go with mine. Okay, let's see if I find another one. Chris shows Blackie, talk about what's the worst we have to worry about in the state of Alabama as far as wildlife. Wild boar. Uh, your odds of running into an alligator on land kind of limited. Can it happen? Absolutely. I have been in a hammock before in a pretty bad rainstorm at night and had one walking from Pond A going to River B and came walking through camp, a big one. Uh, but the odds are the animals you're going to encounter that can give you a lot of trouble is Russian boars. They got up to 10-inch tusks on them, and he's a tank, and he ain't scared of you. And so they'll usually avoid you if they know you're there. So I tell people if it sounds like somebody's dragging a trash can through the woods over there, it's probably one of them hogs. If it is, clap, sing, make a human noise, they'll avoid you. They have fantastic hearing, fantastic sense of smell, and horrible eyesight. It's designed for right here to see right in front of them. And so you real quickly get out of their visual range. And where people will get in trouble is they'll be sitting, looking, and they see pigs coming toward them up a dirt road or down a ditch or whatever, and they think, oh, pigs. And they're thinking domestic pigs like on a farm. These ain't. It's like the difference between saying a black bear and a grizzly. And most times they wander right by you, whatever. But if you're right on that edge of their visual where they can't see you that well, and you spook them, you make a noise, whatever, and they're like, they're coming for you. They've got one form of defense: get rid of you. They're not going to run from you; they're going to run at you. And so I all the time hear about guys that have, especially land nav and stuff out here at Fort Rooker. They'll be doing land nav at night, and somebody will be at SEER school or something like that, and they'll run afoul of a group of hogs, and you got to go up a tree because they're goring the tree. They're screaming so loud, your ears are ringing, and I don't care how loud you yell at them, they ain't interested. And his hide's 1 inch thick. If you don't hit him with something adequate in the right place, he's not just going to go down. So, yeah, he's not impressed with a stick. So that's the animal you got to really respect down here, more than anything else. Thank you very much, Daniel Irvine. Thank you very much. We need to see a blackbird granddaddy Barlow. I'm not doing a whole lot of nice stuff. Down the line, who knows? But right now, Oh yeah, Little Drain talking about in Colorado. I was going out to do trash and a 300-pound female reared up. Yeah, that happens. That happens a lot. Down here at Fort Walton Beach, Florida, a friend of mine works in an office complex, and he does real estate. So it's not some weird something. It's real estate. And you look out his window, and on the other side of basically the driveway, about 40 feet, we'll say, is the back of the Hardys, and there's a dumpster. And he was posting on his Facebook about every 2 or 3 days of coming into work at 6 in the morning, and there'd be 2 or 3 black bears crawling in and out of the dumpster every day. So when the guys go to take the stuff to the dumpster, they'd come out and go to banging on pots and pans and stuff to make sure the bears would run off so they could throw away garbage. So yeah, that's one of the things you don't want to surprise one. Brad Docker, those rigger belts, they're good belts. Okay, how do you clean a haversack, spill cooking oil on it? Okay, cooking oil, you need to absorb as much as you can off the top. So what I would recommend would be to take it and take some dry flour, put on top of it, and leave that, like put a piece of paper or something and put a weight on it. Let it sit there like overnight and let it help wick and absorb what it can out of that. After that, you're going to probably have to use hot water. Now, it's got a wax coating as well. So you're going to lose some wax coating doing that. But that'd be the way I do it. Dawn dishwashing liquid. It loves to to turn loose oil. So you may want to try just taking it and putting some Dawn dishwashing soap on it first in the kitchen sink with cold water and letting that Dawn, see if it'll get that cooking oil to float off of it as much as possible. Because if you put really, really hot water, you're going to ruin the wax coating that's in the fabric. You'll melt the wax out of it. But that's what I would do if I spill cooking oil on it. And I hate to hear that, but I mean, that's just one of the things that happens. I've had some wonderful gear that I had built paint on, motor oil on, everything else. It happens. Hello, Rachel. How you doing? Chuck Miller saying, he thinks snakes are the worst. They can be. But now usually in the springs when the snakes are the worst, up to about the 1st of June, because they're going to come out and they're in mating season. Our snakes don't truly hibernate down here. They will go kind of dormant. They will go into dens during the winter months. It depends on how cold our winter is. Even in the dead of winter, I've seen copperheads and things out because it warmed up to 75 or 80 during the day and they came out. So they don't truly go dormant. But you just got to keep your eyes open. Again, what's the terrain? If there's a lot of leafy cover and stuff where I can't see them, then I'll take a stick in front of me and do like that as I walk. If I'm going into certain territory, I'm going to have snake boots on because they're snake chaps. Because you're just likely to get popped. But most of the time, they're going to leave you alone. The only snake we have down here that I tell you got to deal with, and that's a moccasin. Rattlers will just lay there most of the time. The black pine snake, which is not venomous, but it's got an attitude. It'll huff and puff at you. It'll rattle its tail in the leaves to try to make you think it's something dangerous, and they will bluff charge at you and stuff like that. But a cottonmouth, he's born pissed off, and they will come after you. And I've had people say, "Oh, the snakes would never have done that." Let me take you north of Mobile. I've seen them go up a bank, go up a tree, come out on the limb to jump in the boat. He saw us, got out of the water to do it, and dove into the boat with us and was hissing and spitting and coming at us. He was just mad at the world because we were in his little terrain. There was no reason. We didn't spook him, nothing. He was looking at us the whole time. And after we flipped him out of the canoe with a paddle, he tried to do it again. He went up past us and got in another tree and was sitting there waiting on us, and we just went wide and went around him. But it's like animals have personalities like everything else, and they can have an attitude sometimes. But cottonmouths, yeah, they'll do it. Fort Delaware, cool. I like old historic forts. CHAZIE, thank you very much, and hi to the UK. Thoughts on the Pieta 44 Navy? Pieta makes a good gun nowadays. They really do. And the 44 caliber Navy, no, that's not historically accurate. Yes, they took a 51 Navy Colt did back in the day and boarded out the 44. That was the prototype to prove that the frame and all could handle it. And so they created it. And so that became the 1860 Army with a rebated cylinder. And so historically there wasn't such thing. But it exists today and it works fine. If you like the lines of the 41 or the 51 and you want it in a 44, why not? There are many that would say that the 1861 Navy is actually an 1860 Army in 36, as opposed, and so this is a 51 Navy in 44. If you enjoy it, do it. Pieta makes a good gun. Eric Bader, what is your favorite pieces of gear to carry for multiple days of camping and comfort items? Okay. I like to carry, for me personally, if it's just going to be me, it's going to be a canteen cup cook set. That takes care of all my anything I want to eat. I can make in that pretty quick and easy. My good belt knife, like my WC knife I've got, which is my Blackbird, my prototype, either one of them, that'll handle about all of it. I want a tarp that's big enough because you got to remember where I live down here close to the Gulf. I need a tarp that's big enough to cover me and protect me in our heavy downpours. So I lean a little bigger in tarp than I really need because I know when I get blowing rain and stuff. So a good tarp is a big thing. And of course, hammocks for comfort. If I can sleep, I can be happy. If I'm not sleeping, I'm not that happy. Like he didn't become a good camper if he's been up all night every 10 minutes because either the bugs are eating him or something's crawling on him, whatever. So I carry a good hammock. If I'm going to have a choice of gear, it's going to be a good hammock with some sort of bug protection. It's going to be a bigger tarp than what most people think you're going to need. It's going to be a good knife and that little bitty cook set. With that, watering and basic stuff, I'm good to go. I'm happy. I can carry minimum gear. As long as I get to sleep, and as long as I can sleep comfortably, I can do without a lot of stuff. Um, and I've had people want to challenge me to do a knife challenge, do everything one knife. Let me pick the right time of year when I ain't got so many bugs. And yeah, I can build, ground a pound and make my own shelter and etc. Give me my kukri, and I'll build shelters in 45 minutes or less. I'll get off the ground, and I'll be comfortable. I'll have a fire and I'll do whatever I got to do. But you know, hey, enjoy life. It's if you're what did Nesmonk said, if you're roughing it, you're doing it wrong. So go with that. I don't always carry a lantern. I usually, just let firelight dictate it, although I carry a flashlight in my pocket every day. So I could use that. But most time, my needs are simple. When you do it long enough, you see what you really need and don't worry about the rest. Okay, William Cruz, yeah, the Dawn dishwashing soap should do really good for that. Brad Docker had been hit by a copperhead. Usually without any medical, unless you have other outlying medical. Up until a couple of years ago, I had heard it said by relatively knowledgeable that no adult, healthy adult, had ever died from a copperhead bite. Oh, it'll make you sick as a dog, but its venom is not that strong and it doesn't do that bad. But they have had somebody that did pass away not long ago. But you don't know what the other conditions were. Did they have a heart condition? Did they have kidney problems? Whatever. Did them getting struck cause liver damage? But uh, I've been popped. I haven't been bitten, but I've been popped where they hit me, but it didn't break skin. I had a dry bite from a big timber rattler one time that knocked my leg. I mean, I was picking my foot up and he hit me in the side of the foot so hard it's like you hit me with a baseball bat. The old leather boot I had, it left an imprint, and he didn't fang strike. He head butted me. It was a dry bite. He knew he couldn't kill me, so he was just expressing his displeasure. And he was up under a half rotten log. And as I went to step, I guess I stepped at the right place and whop. And he nearly took, my foot went sideways. It was everything I could do to keep from falling on top of him. So you're going to get popped if you're out there long enough. And that's when you run over there going, have your heart moment, and then you calm back down and realize, okay, I'm okay, and keep going. And that's what I recommend to people. If you ever do get bit, what's the first thing you do? Drop all gear that you ain't got to have. Walk as calmly as you can back to the car. Call 911, tell them you're coming in. If at all possible, kill the snake. Take a picture of the snake. Usually I said bring the snake. They kind of freak out in the ER when you come in and go, this sucker bit me. People tend, the ER nurse kind of freaks out. But be able to show what snake it was and just get medical attention. It does not kill you instantly. it takes a long time to kill you. You'll know you're bitten and envenomated because it will burn. I mean, burn worse than any bee sting right now. And it just keeps hurting. And so go to medical. And you've got hours, you know, go to medical and they'll take care of it. It's not something like we don't have fertilances and things where they liquefy your flesh here in North America, and even the most venomous ones. You've got, say, about a 4 or 5 hour, the average person, don't quote me, guys, 4 or 5 hours, the average healthy adult will be able to get medical attention and not suffer unless there's some other problem. So that's the thing to do. Just go get medical attention. You'll be all right. Jim Stewart, Cottonmouth, born pissed off. That's what I was told when I was a little boy, and it is proven true. He said, Granddaddy said most diamondbacks, laid back, they care less. As long as you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. All them other snakes, leave you alone, they're fine. Cottonmouth, he's born pissed off. You're in his territory and you're breathing his air. So if you have one you got to deal with because he's coming at you, it's going to be a cottonmouth. Farmer's son, hey there. Okay. Pieta makes a solid firearm. Single action arm 357. Those are good. Okay. Verizon is asking best load for my 58 Remington 44 Power Decks and round ball. For a standard target load or standard general purpose go out and plink load, start with 30 grains. Go up a little or go down a little until you find the sweet spot. Anytime you're doing with any kind of firearm, think about like a tuning fork. You hit it and it rings a certain way. Every firearm, black powder, whatever, has a threshold, a certain amount of pressure, etc., that makes it ring the best. And so you shoot a group around the 30, go up to like 31, 32. I'd go to like 32, then 34, 36, jump up like that. And if the group shrinks, you're getting close. If go down and like 28, 25, and it shrinks, that's what you do. Just find where it shrinks down. Aim at exactly the same point. Put your dot up there. Aim at that. Be braced so you're not doing this. Squeeze off every shot. Take your time. Rest. That's something a lot of people don't get. Don't just stare at that sight. Your eyes get tired and your groups open up because your eyes are getting tired. Limit it to 3-shot groups and see what group it likes best, and that's the word. Just start about 30 grains. Good place to start. I have a 51 and 44 caliber. Didn't realize that it was originally in 36. Buddy of mine gave you one. Yeah, the 51 was originally a 36 caliber. 44 caliber was the Dragoon, which was the big military caliber. The Walker was a 44. And the power that they were going for that 4-pound handgun was, I think, today like a pump pistol grip 12-gauge shotgun. It was for the cavalry to be able to shoot. And if you shot high, you took out the Indian. If you shot low, you took out the horse. Same result in a running battle on the plains. And so they wanted that kind of power of a carbine in a handgun. Okay. When they went to the first, second, and third model Dragoon, that's still that kind of big power. That was through the 1850s. Well, just before the Civil War in 1860, the 51 Navy, which was the belt gun and was very, very popular amongst military, Army, Navy, everybody used that gun. They wanted to know, can I put the power of the 44 into this frame? It's like, I've got this little car, can I shoehorn this big V8 into it? That's what they were going for. And that's what became the 1860 Army. It actually kind of came out of the Dragoon line rather than the belt line that was the 51 Navy. And so there was only one ever made in 44, and that was the prototype. So it was 36s, And then the 1860 Army took over that job, and they quit making. You could order it, but no military contracts came in for the big dragoons because now the 1860 Army did what the dragoon was doing, and so therefore they kind of eliminated it. They dropped the weight in half. It's half the weight of a dragoon. Okay, let's see. Have you ever eaten snake before, and what kind? I've eaten rattlesnake. I've eaten copperheads. Name it, I've eaten it at some point. What do snakes taste like? All reptiles taste like, to me personally, it kind of tastes like pork loin. But most people say it tastes kind of like chicken, white meat chicken. Turtles are an exception. But alligator, lizard, snake, all of them are reptile base, and their flesh tastes a lot alike. And when you go get alligator nuggets, it just hunks alligator tail. They're produced industrially from these farms that raise alligators for meat. Once you eat it, it looks a lot like white meat chicken breast, but to me, to my taste, it tastes more like pork loin. That's just the way I do it. But a lot of people say it looks and tastes like chicken. They ain't kidding. It really does. Have I ever used a jet boil? I have. A friend of mine had one. It's a very useful thing to bring out, fire it up, use it. First time I saw one, I thought it was crazy because I didn't realize that neoprene like outer covering that allows you to pick it up was not going to burn. And so he had fired it up, and I'm about ready to try to beat it out for fear he's about to melt it. And he said, no, it can handle those temperatures. And it just blew my mind when I seen one. But those are great to carry for a quick boil in a pack or something like that. Yeah, they work very well. You get bit by a bear, kill the bear, and bring it to the hospital. That's going to be a story. You do that, you got a good story. Do you have a favorite forest amphibian? Bullfrogs. Yeah. Um, we didn't gig for bullfrogs. I'm going to tell you what we did. I preference here, ladies and gentlemen. I do not know what I'm about to say is currently legal where you are. Okay. So it is your responsibility to look up with your local game wardens and etc. to see if this technique is legal in your area. Okay. We take a cane fishing pole, 18 foot or something like that, and we put like 15-pound, 20-pound test line on it. And at the end of it, we'd put 2 or 3 small treble hooks. And up on the line, we'd take that big old red yarn, big as your pinky, red yarn. We'd take a piece of it and we'd run the line through the yarn, tie on the hooks, and pull the hooks back up so they were in the yarn. Okay. And then we'd tie it off. Usually we'd put a fishing weight on the end of it, and we would swing it out in front of the bullfrog, and he'd zap it with his tongue, which hooked treble hooks, and we'd pick him up and swing him back to us. We didn't wait out there in the water to try to go get him. We'd just swing it out to him, and he'd zap it, and we'd bring it back to us. That's how we'd go frog jigging. We'd catch bullfrogs. So they taste like chicken. But they're an edible source of meat. You got the legs is the only meat you want on them. You don't want anything to do with the skin because they have toxins in the skin to make them taste horrible. So you want to skin it, clean it, get the meat. Looks like little chicken wings, kind of. All right. Eric Vader, you're welcome, sir. Alligator is incredibly good in his opinion. Yeah, it tastes really good. They now, I know in Louisiana, there's places that they industrially raise them. for the hides and for the meat, and I think some organs that they do something in the medical field with. I think the gallbladder or something. But yeah, they all can. It's a very viable meat source. I mean, they eat anything, and so they just and places I've heard of, they do it as a tourist thing too. People get to come in and look at all the alligators, and they feed them. Usually, the guts and stuff from the butchering plant up here, where they, you know, butcher chickens or pigs or whatever. That's what they take down there and feed to the alligators, which love it. And then when they harvest the gators, they harvest them for the hide and they harvest them for the meat, etc. So it's kind of like a big toothy cow that you don't want to fall into the cow pit. Talking about big snakes go up 10. The largest indigenous snake in the United States is the blue indigo, and they're up to 12 feet long. And they're a protected species. Last time I checked, I think it was a $25,000 fine if you're found killing one because they were endangered. And here recently, they announced that not far from where I hold my uh, camp out in the Connecticut National Forest, they had found one, and the game wardens were all so excited because one hadn't been seen in years. I wish they'd asked me. I'd take them where I could show them where there's a breeding pair living up under a stump that I know of that been there for years. But she's about 10, 11 feet long, about yay big around, you know, and they ignore you. Humans could care less. They eat snakes. It's a snake that eats snakes, and they will run down a rattler or whatever and swallow it. You know, so they're a very viable animal. That's the largest indigenous native snake. Now down in the Everglades and coming up through Florida, now you got anacondas and pythons. And which is the biggest? Well, are you talking about length or weight? Because a python can be 20 feet long and weigh 200 pounds. An anaconda can be 12 feet long and weigh 500. So, you know, and somebody was saying, well, what we're going to do to cure the problem? Real simple. Rednecks start publishing recipes, and you realize that he tastes like chicken. There's 500 pounds of chicken right there, dude. Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, just turn rednecks loose and tell them that's 500 pounds of chicken. They'll go hunting them puppies pretty quick because that's a lot of free meat. Lost shoes frog gigging. Yes. Get out in that mud. That's one of the reasons we didn't do it because amphibians like really boggy terrain a lot of times. That's one of the ways that the frogs protect themselves from predators is they're light, they can walk across lily pads and stuff like that. So we used his natural predator technique against him by swinging that lure out there right in front of him and kind of do it like a lazy 8. So it goes, he'd look at it once, twice, and he just couldn't resist. That tongue goes zap, and he's hooked. Bring him in. Have you ever been treed by a boar? Yes. Um, I was coming back from a squirrel hunt one time, and I was not being situationally aware. I was daydreaming about my girlfriend and not thinking. And I was coming up that wood line, and they were on the other side of this little wood line, this little fence row, and I didn't see them. And when I cut through the cut hole, I stepped right there in amongst them. And there were 2 or 3 big sows that had little piglets. And by God, they were a little ticked at Blackie. And I had just enough time to grab this little bitty scrub oak and get my feet 2 or 3 feet in the air and then scrunch up where I was about 4 or 5 feet in the air. And I stayed in that tree for about a half hour. They screamed and hollered and gored everything. And lucky for me, the actual tree was actually coming from the other side of the fence. And so they couldn't gore the tree so much because the fence was in the way. Because they will gore it to pieces and it'll fall down with you. And, but yeah, I have had to retreat up a tree before. And then I kick myself in the butt for not being situationally aware. When you're in the woods, be aware. Learn to listen to the sounds of nature, and things change. And I talked about it, I don't know, a year or two ago. I talked about on a woods walk I did about listening, and I stopped and was listening with the camera, and you could hear these sounds of birds, and then stop, and then that's a predator or something walking on the far edge of the field over there, and the birds are squawking, and you could just hear it going across the field as each one took up the chorus saying he's over here now. So you learn to be aware. You once you learn, you'll see it. Okay, Drastgreyh. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, I'm not over there anymore. I retired. Do this now. Thank you very much, Tommy. Glad y'all enjoy it. Curtis Richards, for frogs to use a 1-inch red square cloth. That'll work as well. How often does my wife go camping? She usually, every year she'll go to my camp out that I put on, and she'll camp out the week with us. If I go on an overnight or something to the lake and she wants to go, she's always welcome to go. And she camped with me for 25 years in living history. So she's a very accomplished camper in her own right, and has taken out ladies and taught them how to camp. She's a woods woman. She'll hang in there. Of course, if I'm there, I'm doing the cooking. But if I'm not there, she'll do her own thing. Now, having said that, she doesn't build a fire worth a flip. And we worked out a deal. And for you guys out there, you want to teach your wife or whatever, or for bringing your kids up, here's a little trick I'll pass on for you. One, you want to get an airtight container of some kind. I like an old U.S. Army 50 cal ammo can. Go get the paper bags that you put lunches in, just plain old brown paper bags, and get a bag of Kingsford Matchlight charcoal. Put like 10 briquettes in a bag, roll it over and wrap it up with a piece of masking tape or staple it closed or whatever, and put them into that ammo can, 4 or 5, whatever you can put in the can. When they need a fire and you're not around, have them open the can, pull out one bag, close the can, go sit it down, and set the bag on fire. That's all they got to know. And it'll go to burning. Once it goes to burning, you can lay sticks on it and build a fire. And that's what I did for my wife. She has her can set up for that. So if she gets up in the morning and I'm not up yet and she wants to heat up her coffee water, she sets her little bag down, does her click lighter, and sets it afire, and she's got her campfire. Besides that, she's good. She'll take care of herself. Hike with Mike, hello from Florida. Pythons in South Florida. Yep, and you can keep them puppies down there too. Coach 417, Coach Whips. Yep. First time I ever saw a snake up close was a Coach Whip. An aunt of mine, we had gone to visit, and there's this old Civil War era house down in a swamp in Florida. It was my Uncle Bill's. And literally, you were in a swamp. It's an island in a swamp. It had been part of a plantation back in the day. So you got this big old house with this huge oaks out front. And me and a cousin had gone to stay like 3 or 4 days. It was a family problem. And they had pushed us kids off on a family member to kind of keep an eye on us, babysit, while this family problem was being dealt with. And, of course, my aunt was trying to be real nice to us little boys. We're like 7, 8 years old. And they had a root cellar as part of the house. He opened a little door and went down some stairs. And she said, well, let me go get y'all some candied peaches or something like that. And they had pickled peaches. And so she opens up the door, and she stepped, like on the 3rd step down, there was a Coach Whip down there, and it wrapped around her leg. And she goes, oh, and comes back up into the kitchen, into the light, and sticks this leg out toward us, and it's got this snake wrapped around it. And so she reached down and unwrapped the Coach Whip and said, oh, don't worry about it. He was just looking for a mice or something. She put it out the back door. scared us little boys to death. You know, Freddy Krueger and the Halloween horror films got nothing on my uncle's house at that moment. We were utterly terrified that everywhere we looked, we were going to have another one of them snakes. It's like booby traps everywhere. Hiker Mike says carry bear spray. Sound advice if you got problem animals like that. Good thing to carry. Curtis talks about chickens will give you alert. Yeah, they will make noise. When you learn the sounds of your animals and things, you'll be very aware of your area. Favorite camp cook pot, cast iron Dutch oven, or steel bush pot? Depending on what I'm doing. If it's just for me, it'll be a bush pot. If we're going to be baking bread and stuff, it's going to be a Dutch oven. Just the way it is. You can do anything in Dutch oven. If it's a larger camp, we're going to be here for a week, I'll bring a couple of my Dutches because I can cook multiple meals, multiple things at one time by doing a stack. And I intend to do, me and Bear's going to do more of that this fall. We're going to do that for y'all and do some Dutch oven cooking and stuff for you. For me personally to do, bush pot. Quick, easy, and light because my needs are simple. And I can do anything I need. If I'm having to scale up from my canteen cup cook set, then it's going to be like that smaller Pathfinder bush pot is what I use. I can bake. I can do whatever in that. And I've done a couple of videos using it. It's light and handy. And most of the stuff where you're boiling or stewing for quite a while, yeah, good way to go. Hello, Tennessee Smoky. Good to see you. Do the mosquitoes seem to be worse in the summer? Yeah, especially in the early spring when the mosquitoes first hatch out. Man, they eat you up. Now, what to do about keeping them out of camp? Smoke. When you show up from coming out of everyday society, you smell like soap. You smell like our modern era, and that's an attractant to them. Usually, after you got a couple of days of sweat and dirt on you, mosquitoes start to leave you alone a little bit. It's been my experience. And I have been eating up to the point I've just taken handfuls of dirt and started doing that to help mask my scent. And it's helped, you know. I took a mud bath one time in a swamp in South Alabama where I just took handfuls of mud and just went to cake because I was on a canoe thing and they were just eating me alive. They were laughing at Deep Woods off. And I'm one of the people that rarely ever gets bitten. And so if they're that voracious, you know, I looked like I had chicken pox. I was so covered. So I just went to smearing mud all over everything, trying to get them off of me. And that actually helps. The best natural growing insect repellent we have down here is American Beauty Berry. Look it up, see it, crush the leaves. It does as good to me as Deep Woods Off does. But as far as a something like that to keep them off of you, don't use sweet smelling soap the night before you're going out. Don't wear cologne. Your clothing, you know, put stuff like the stuff you put into your dryer and stuff to make it smell and stuff. It just seems to attract insects to me. And so I try to find ways to avoid that. Okay, what's your favorite place to camp? My all-time favorite place to camp is Dogwood Hollow, which is the private camping area of a good friend of mine, my last mentor, Francis McGowan. Several hundred acres with a Pigeon Creek, Alabama, running right through the middle of it. It's near Red Level, Alabama. And there's so many good times there and so many camps there. It's one of them places that, out of sheer nostalgia, I've rendezvoused there. I've hunted there. I've spent a lot of good times, a lot of good friends there. And so that's my all-time favorite camp to go to. Ever watch somebody whip a snake to kill it? Yes. If you have to kill a snake, the Cold Steel sold a flexible piece of hard rubber called a sjambok that does a really good job killing snakes. But what I always tell people is if you have to kill a snake, you don't aim for the head, aim for the tail. Come about a third of the way up from the tail and hit him. And I mean hit him, whap, and he broke his back. And he'll go into his theatrics because he's going into shock. He broke his back. And relatively quickly, he'll roll over. And if you're going to harvest him for meat, pin the head down, cut the head off. Don't play with the head. Dig a little hole if it's venomous. Push the head into the dirt and bury it up. Then you can hang up the snake, let him wriggle because that's nerve action. Whenever that quits, split the belly up, clean the tube out, pull the hide off, and you got a tube of meat. Cut it in round, small pieces like inch and a half. Stick it on sticks, put it around the fire, roast it when it turns white and there's no juice coming out of it. Well, no pink juice coming out of it. You take it, you got ribs, right? Because it's all ribs. Start eating down to you hit a rib and crack a rib out and just keep going, go down the backbone and eat the meat that way. Don't try to eat it like this, like Les Stroud did. He also don't know how to eat snake. And it's actually good meat and a good way to harvest meat if you got to. Okay. Have you ever camped out on top of Indian mounds? We had on my private thing about it. I have camped out next to Indian mounds, Fort Toulouse, Alabama. They have an Indian mound there. And I'm in an area, the part of the country that does have quite a bit of old villages and mounds and stuff. Have I been to sites that had a Native American ancestor to them? Yes. There's quite a few places around me that are that way. Today it's a cow pasture, but 200 years ago it was a village. So yeah, there's places like that around. Beautyberry grows like weeds in Florida. Very true. It's kind of unique. Once you see it in those purple uh, berries of it, you'll never forget it. And the berries do make a pretty good jelly if you care to make jellies. CJK, how you doing? Okay, when you bought land, what do you look for? What's important to live on? Okay, I recommend before you buy anything like that, go get the book by J. Wayne Fears called My Dream Cabin or Your Dream Cabin. Get it off Amazon, whatever. He's done the hard lifting for you. How knowing where to go talk to the county assessor, find out the flood plan. Does this area flood? Has it had any other economic problems? Things like that. Um, Finding out power, all kinds of stuff. He's done the heavy lifting for you. And so that's a way to do it. He's already done it. And I recommend anybody that's thinking about buying land to build an off grid or to just have a retreat or a hunting cabin or whatever, go get that book. It will answer so many questions you didn't know to ask and help you out a lot. Um, I've met Jay Wayne before, very knowledgeable individual, a good woodsman, and that will really give you a good working knowledge to know what to really do. Let's see what's next. Brad Doctor, I like Octagon soap, has no scent. I actually like, what is that name? It's not that. Not chamomile. Dadgummit, I can see it. It's normally on the bottom shelf when you're buying soap about every store, and it's got a little bit of olive oil in it, and that soap goes back to the 1600s. You can wash your hair with it, you can wash whatever with it, and I have found it does not automatically attract bugs. It's not Octagon, but it's normally right there next to it or something, and lavender doesn't seem to attract bugs. And I've used lavender many times. And it'll come to me as soon as the video, we stop this, but something starts with a C. It's not chamomile, but it's something like that, soap. Okay. You can store your outerwear in a bag full of leaves. Yeah, natural scent helps. So you think Florida swamp snakes will hear you and flee or wait for you to ambush your leg up? They pretty much want to leave you alone. Okay. Um, they know most snakes will give ground and leave. That's one reason I say you wave the stick in front of you. I'm whacking into bushes and stuff like that as I go. That's transmitting a vibration to the ground. They don't have a good ear. They feel vibration to the ground mostly. So I'm kind of warning them I'm coming. Well, something's coming. And if I can't see my feet, I walk a little heavy footed, kind of boom, 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 because I want to transmit that through the ground. And it usually, they don't know if a cow's coming, and a cow don't care. A cow just stomp you. So they're more likely to kind of give me leeway or let me just pass. I have watched 10 or 15 people one time step over a 5-foot diamondback rattlesnake. There was several limbs across the path, and she was laying between them, and they just stepped over and never even noticed she was there. Most time they're going to leave you alone. So that's the thing. If they want to leave me alone, I want to leave them alone. I try my best to avoid harming anything, if at all possible. It's only whenever they've got an attitude, I don't want to be envenomated. So that's when I've got to deal with it. Otherwise, I'm going to leave them alone. They're a beautiful animal. They're doing their job. Leave them alone. Okay, let's see what we got here. What is one of your favorite meals at home or restaurant? My all-time favorite meal is a ham steak fried in butter with mashed potatoes and homemade brown gravy with yeast rolls and field peas and butter beans mixed together. Granny made that a lot for me. That's my all-time favorite meal. Favorite restaurant. I normally drop into Cracker Barrel for their roast beef and turnips and stuff when I'm traveling. Other than that, whatever I feel like at the moment. Thank you, though. CJ, hey, okay, I got you. Sorry I missed Trapper Dan. Tell him to look at it after a while. And tell little fella hello for me. Hello, Henry. Lye soap. Yes, sir. You can still buy lye soap today, and lye soap does a good job. Don't use it for everything, but it does a good job. Farmer's son prepping. I know you're a woodsman, but you consider yourself a prepper. In many ways, the two go together. Um, Being a woodsman means that you've learned to be independent and that you can thrive in the environment. You can provide for yourself. Being a prepper means you know how to take those resources and pile them in such a way that's going to fit your needs down the line. The woodsman provides for the immediate needs, the prepper provides for the long term needs. And so those are things. And it's a lifetime skill. It is very daunting to think about. You're going to start out with nothing. And I had somebody not that long ago, and they were trying to be honest, but they said, "I want to know everything you know." I said, "You don't have 50 years." I learned from totally independent people that lived through the Great Depression, had 8 children during the Great Depression, and still managed to raise the kids and do stuff. They made everything they needed. They created, they hoarded, they did whatever. And so to start today from scratch is very daunting. You've got the resources available today with the internet. You can find people like me that know what they're talking about in their given field and learn. But it is going to be a challenge. But yes, I think prepping is a very necessary part. If not for world go to whatever, it's just food shortages, fuel shortages, whatever. Being able to take care of yourself, it makes sense. Okay. Uh, Camphor? No, don't know. Don't know much about camphor. Sorry. Hike with Mike. Oh, for bugs, haven't tried that. Not that I know of. 417. I'm thinking about getting into bushcraft camping. What is the first things I should buy? First thing you should buy is you need a decent knife at whatever skill level and whatever money level you're comfortable. Two, focus on learning how to build a fire. Okay, get that skill nailed down before you go out. Learning how to build a fire will make you comfortable, allow you to cook your meals, allow you to keep the boogeyman at bay at night, etc. Once you got fire in place, then look at shelters, camping. Set it up in your backyard. Practice in your backyard wherever you got a place to do it at. One of the ways I teach people is with a ferro rod. We get a roll of toilet paper and we get a ferro rod and a striker. Get out on a piece of sidewalk or something like that and learn the technique of throwing good sparks where you want. Get the fire going. That's the number one. And then start expanding. Take a skill, get a good working knowledge in a skill, and move on. That's the way to get good at it. Once you got a solid understanding in this skill, it will build to the next skill. You, as my wise and learned friend said, you'll be able to pose worthy questions because you'll understand what you're talking about then. Calgon soap. Yes. Castile. Thank you, Pink. Castile soap. That's what I was talking about a while ago. Tennessee Smoky. My dad would always throw on an old oily rag on the fire to smother the flames and generate a lot of smoke to keep mosquitoes out of camp. Smoke to satellite hunt. Very true. Mosquitoes are attracted by, they smell our breath. They smell a waste gas in our breath. So smoke is a natural to kind of push them out a little bit. And a lot of times if I'm going to build a debris shelter, I'm going to build a fire in front of it. I'm going to build a big bohunking smoky fire, and I'm going to fan it into that shelter. I want to just smoke it out because any spiders, bugs, ticks, whatever, they're going to flee. And if I'm going to be laying down and sleeping in this tonight, I want it to stink of wood smoke to help keep them away from me. Well, hello, Chasing the Trail. Congratulations. No, naphtha soap is not. I know what you're talking about. That's usually used for cleaning clothes and material, but not what we're talking about. It was actually Castile. Thank you, Pink, for finding that out, digging that up for me. Hike with Mike. True. A lot of people, snakes leave you alone, most of the time. And I have known quite a few people that were herpetologists, had pet snakes, etc., and would say, look, if you got a problem snake, call me. And they come get them out of your yard or whatever because they know how to handle them. And I have nothing but respect for people that have that kind of skill. I don't. I think that they're a wonderful animal, and I just leave them alone, let them live. I have to kill it. I want to harvest it for food. I do not want to kill it just because it's a snake. Sanford Brown, good night. We're going to be winding this up at 9. I didn't mean to be 2 hours. I hope you guys ain't getting bored, but 98 of you hanging in there, so thank you very much. Clase sin nombre. I would say the first thing new bushcraft should buy would be a Boy Scout manual. That's a really good place to start. It really is, especially the old classic Boy Scout manuals. A real eye opener is get like a 1940s Boy Scout manual. You can still find them on eBay. The skills and stuff they teach in there are just awesome. And when you look at it and realize this was for kids, to do. Remember the first class scout, to get your navigation badge, you had to start on a road and go 7 miles cross country while making a map. You couldn't be following a road. You had to be cutting through the woods 7 miles. Then you had to deviate over another point and come 7 miles back to hit the point on the road that you meant to hit. And then you had to hand that map that you created with all the navigation information off to the scoutmaster, and he had to retrace that following your map. And if he couldn't retrace it, you did something wrong. And this is a 10, 12-year-old kid. You're saying he's going to walk 14 miles through the woods with no road and no adult supervision in the 1940s. It was a different breed back then. So, yeah, read some of them things and those skills they teach them. Very good stuff. Thank you, Pink. Appreciate it. Looking forward to us camping out this fall sometime. Loving some outdoors. I've been trying to make me a truck get home bag, and your recent video has helped me. Crazy to think if your cell phone went down or no one is around, what stuff you need to survive. That's very true. Cell phones are fantastic devices, very, very helpful. But realize if you can turn it off, it can go off. So it cannot be the only thing. It took an optimist to invent the airplane. It took a pessimist to invent the parachute. You know, this sucker might break down while we're up here. And so always have the idea of if it broke, now what? Have the backup plan. Most people, and I've said this many times, get you a business card or something that's blank on the back of it and write down important phone numbers and keep it in your wallet, because most people today can't quote a phone number. Most of them don't even remember their own number unless you got to look it up. Because mom's number 2, you just remember when you punched in. From then on, it's just call Julie, call Tom, or whatever. But you don't know the number. Well, what if you've been in an accident and your phone's been destroyed or it's been lost, and you get to somebody else's phone, and who you going to call? And you don't know your wife's number off the top of your head. Write it down on, something like the back of a business card and keep it in your wallet, keep it in your purse for that, so that I can quote numbers. Even if I can't remember it, I can look it up right quick and be able to get somebody to me, because you end up in the hospital or something like that and they didn't bring your phone because you were in the car wreck. What's your wife's name? Now you got to try to guess and find her another way, see? And so it's always a good idea to have the backups and whatever you got, be it compasses, whatever. Always have backups. Good night, Dutch. Thanks for watching. What is your go-to rucksack for Jeff Morgan for your multiple days out in the woods? The German Alpine rucksack is my all-time favorite rucksack. It's the right size for what I need. I have camped a week out of that bag before. It'll be a little tight getting a week's worth of food in it, but I can manage. And a lot of times I'll transfer like my tarp or my sleep bag to the outside until I get to camp, because once I set up my tarp, my hammock, and my sleeping bag, the bag just becomes a storage thing hooked to the end of the tree, So, but that is my all-time favorite. It fits me the best. I carry the best. Now, a lot of guys love the Alice's. A lot of the guys love the Duluth packs, and stuff like that. And those are all viable. Number one, does it fit you? That's the biggest thing. Does it fit you? Number two, you're probably going to need 2 bags, a summer bag and a winter bag, because our winter sleeping bags, under quilts, clothing are big and fluffy. They're not necessarily heavy, but they're bulky. And so I need to go up in size and bag. So I have a big 65-liter backpack that in the dead of winter, if we're going, that's what I'll carry, because I got to carry a bigger sled bag, sweaters, bigger socks, things like that. The German Alpine rucksack does the other 9 months of the year for me for camping. And so that's where I go with that. Mr. Johnny, you picked up 2 Boy Scout canteens, mint condition. Awesome. They're good gear. Blackie, have you slept in the old World War II jungle hammock? What's your thoughts on the universal user? Oh. The old World War II hammock with the little thin nylon top and the vertical walls. I did camp in those for several years. That's the reason I moved on to better hammocks. For its day, it was okay. If you put sticks on each end, it becomes really, really tippy. And you got to be really good at balancing, getting in and out of them, or you're going whoop and you're flipping. The center of balance, you're on top of the center of balance. And so I don't have a high opinion of them anymore. Did I use them for years? Yes, sir, I did. But that's the reason I moved on to better hammocks, was because they are just too tippy. And the top is not waterproof. A Hennessy hammock is a far better hammock. A one-wind hammock is a far, far better hammock. Its design looks cool, but trust me, once you ever start trying to really camp in one, they never fit me, and I'm 5'10", right at 200 pounds, and they just never fit me. And I did use it for a number of years in my teenage years, and I can tell you that's the reason I moved on. So it looks good in the collection, but that mother-in-law hammock, she's going, this is the hammock you give her. William Cruz, good night, sir. Yeah, we're going to be wrapping it up any minute now. Richard Hayes, what's your favorite camp meal? I said a while ago, and that is camp taters, which is usually Spam or something in the bottom of a canteen cup, kind of brown it, tear it up in pieces, add water, and then I drop in a mixture of instant Idaho mashed potatoes and brown gravy mixed together into it and stir it up, and that makes camp taters. That's chunks of meat and that all together, very filling, sits there like a brick, and does a really good job, at least for me. Any more bags? I've got have not got the last shipment in. They should come in this week. I have been shipping Blackbird haversacks, but none come in today. I'm expecting them in Monday or Tuesday because they got shipped just a couple days ago. And that should be the last of them. And I'm shipping them out as they show up. And I went to the post office yesterday and shipped out like 25 or 30. So just hang loose. They're still coming. We're going to get them. Chuck Miller, old woods rule, 2 is 1, 1 is none. Very true. Have a backup. Mike, I don't know my wife's number. Yeah. And that's the reason. Write it down on the back of a business card and you stick it in the wallet. All kinds of numbers. And what I do is on top of my driver's license, I have one of them business cards that I wrote, in case of accident, call my wife or text my wife, and I leave that so that I'm DOA in a car wreck and they pull it out. They have immediate contact information right there because they're going to look for your wallet and they're going to look for your driver's license. I want the law enforcement or the first responders to have a quick, easy, like I say on mine, don't call my wife, text her because she'll never answer the phone because she won't recognize their number. So just text her and tell her who you are. See, things like that will make your life a lot easier. And if you got kids, make up a card and insist your kids carry them. Of important numbers, your number, wife's number, your work numbers, grandma's number, stuff like that. So if their phone goes dead or whatever, they can call and get help. See? From Finland, Lally, awesome. Thank you very much. Southeast Kentucky, you guys are getting flooding. Yeah, poor boy, stay safe out there. What color for the new knapsack? Right now, they're going to match the Blackbirds. They're going to be that ripstop canvas and wax canvas. That's right now. As soon as I get the prototype back to me, I'll do a video on it. KUATOFKUAT. Thank you very much. Very welcome. Okay, guys, it's 8:58. That's 2 hours. Thank you very much for tuning in and listening to me kind of babble on, and thank you very much for the questions. I greatly appreciate it. I will do another live sometime in the near future. I'll do like I did this time. I'll announce and let everybody know. Io Shoku, How do we order the haversack? Okay, where did I put that? Go to Down and Dirty Woodscraft at gmail.com and say knapsack or say blackbird haversack, whichever one you want to do, and I'll drop you into the appropriate list there. I'm taking orders now for the third run of the blackbird haversacks, and I will send you a PayPal link if you want to get in on that one. Those should be shipping out in mid-October. The second run is shipping out now. As they're showing up to me, I'm shipping them out right now. The new Nighthawk knapsack, I have not got the finished prototype to me yet. We haven't got a price on it yet. I will be doing a video on that. But if you want to get on the early mailing list, just put in, Nighthawk or that Nighthawk knapsack, and I will drop you into that list and let you know as soon as I have any information. Not sure on price yet on the knapsack yet. We're working out details, find out what we got to do, and I will let everybody know as quick as I can. Well, guys, thank you very much. Good night, Pink. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much, Tiny Titan, all of y'all. And Mr. Henry, if you're still watching, thank you very much, and you have a good night. Say hello to Trapper Dan for me, dear, whenever he gets home. Tell him to watch the video. And all you guys and ladies, thank you very much for watching. I hope to do this again in the near future, and I'll announce it again and have your questions. We'll be glad to do it. Till next time, guys, I'm Blackie wishing you safe journeys. Have a great night.